The Map of Electric Summer. Chapter 1. Rooftops, Rain, and Other Things That Make You Brave. If you ask the adults, summer begins on a Sunday with a list. Universities you are supposed to apply to, classes you are supposed to take, books you are supposed to pretend you read and actually never will, because the monsoon makes paper curl and minds drift. If you ask me, summer begins on a Tuesday with a rooftop. Ours is flat and pebbled, coated in a paint that was once white and is now the color of forgotten shells. The ladder up scratches your palms before you're even halfway there, and the banister wobbles like it's telling you to go back. But every roof in our district is a kind of secret island. Up there the city hum softens, the motorbikes are beads on strings below, and the river glints through the buildings like a rumor. I brought mangoes and the microphone, Lynn says, hoisting herself over the ledge with the easy grace of someone who climbed trees as a kid and never stopped. Her hair is trapped in a clip that looks like a candy wrapper. You brought your stubbornness and your guitar, I see. Also, my face, I say, which, in unfortunate news, we are once again filming. She sets down the basket and pulls out the mic like a magician with a dove. You need a new thumbnail. Last one looked like you were about to sneeze. It was authenticity. It was sinus misery, she says, and then laughs so hard she almost drops the mic. The rain hasn't started, but the sky has the color of tin. You can smell it coming. The city always smells different 5 minutes before a storm. The bakery at the corner, the fish sauce from the pho place, the hot metal of the train tracks, the incense from the sidewalk shrine. 2 rooftops over, where a woman in a blue pajama set lights, coils, and whispers names. On the street, a boy pedals by with flowers balanced on the back of his bicycle. Even the flowers look like they're waiting. Okay, men, Lynn says. Serious now. One take. No swearing. Smile like life is a joke you're in on. Life is a joke I'm failing, I say, but I shrug the strap over my shoulder and settle the guitar against my knee. The fretboard is dark with 100 practiced mistakes. My fingers remember the map better than my brain does. On my channel, I tell stories more than I play songs. 13,000 subscribers think it's about music, and it is, but it's also about that feeling right before the rain, the electricity of almost videos with names like Monsoon Etude at Midnight and Rooftop Lesson, Hum of a Neon Heart. Comments that say, you made me remember the way the river smelled when I was 8, and do you think courage can be learned? And is your friend single? She is not, though her boyfriend exists only as a rumor as far as I can tell. But exams ended last week, and the adults want lists, and my mother's voice is a sharp-edged kindness in the kitchen every morning. Have you looked up the scholarship? Have you emailed your uncle? Have you checked the schedule at the tutoring center for your summer job? She is not a villain. She keeps the basil plants alive, even when the heat is foolish. She ironed my shirt for the graduation photo and didn't cry in front of me because she knows I'm allergic to other people's tears. She is a good woman stranded on an island called responsibility, and she wants me to live there too. I tune the guitar by ear because my tuner app is always wrong in the humidity. Lynn clips the mic to my shirt and taps it with her fingernail, which makes a sound like ice against glass. Ready? She says. I nod. She hits record. The world narrows to a red dot. There's a phrase I've been testing all week. I found it in the middle of a nap, when thunder rolled through the window like furniture, when the air felt peeled. I hummed the melody into my phone, half asleep, the kind of mumble you expect to hate later. But I didn't hate it. It had the shape of the river's bend if you traced it with a finger. It had the smell of rain. If rain could be a scent you play, I called it just before. Hello, electric people, I say to the camera. It's your guy again. Today it smells like Monsoon and also like Lynn bribed me with mango to finally post this. Only because I care, she says from behind the lens. I play. The first notes are careful, and they sound like they always do, pretty, a little shy. But then something unfurls. My fingers find the shape the way hands find pockets. The street below is a stream of scooters. Someone sings 2 buildings over, the fast beat of karaoke like a heart on a treadmill. An auntie throws water across her stoop to keep the dust down. The melody collects these things, or they collect me. I don't know. Music is sometimes a decision and sometimes a door. By the second minute, the world is not my problem. By the third, I have no plan except not to stop. The wind lifts as if someone opened a window in the sky. I'm caught between one chord and the next when the first drop hits cold coin on my cheek, and I hear Lynn swear softly, and then she's laughing and tilting the camera under her chin to shield it. She keeps filming. She never stops filming. She is a soldier for the story. It is not normal rain. It is the kind that turns everything secondhand, like the city's been pawned. It makes neon blur and memories foggy. It finds the holes in the roof paint and rehearses how it will break through in August. It's a promise and a dare. I keep playing. The auntie at the shrine is less careful now. She throws water on the plants and lets it splash on her slippers, and I can't tell if it's rain or her hose. A boy in a red soccer jersey shouts to his friend across the alley, his voice a high-string note. 2 pigeons take cover under a bent satellite dish. Somewhere a dog that never barks, barks, and then lightning stitches itself across the far end of the sky, not so far in the kind of way that makes you feel close to dangerous things. It's a white seam aimed at the old clock tower, the red brick one left over from the French. People make TikToks at its base. Old couples take wedding photos in front of it, the ones that look like they're from a memory of Paris. The tower has no right to stand through war and hunger and middle school pranks, but it does. The clock is always a little wrong. Everyone forgives it. The lightning doesn't hit the tower, it hits the antenna on the building next to it, a thin, stubborn needle propped into the weather. The crack sounds like an argument you can't win. For 1 second, the world is black and white. You could draw all of us in pencil. The antenna sparks like it has opinions. The clock tower swallows the light and shivers but doesn't fall. And the rain grins and says, "More." I stop playing. Did you get that? I ask, stupidly, tragically, like someone in a movie who says, "Is it over?" I got all of it. Lynn lifts the camera to show me her face, which is wet and lit up, and something else too, something I can't name yet. "Min," she says, "this is going to blow up. It's just lightning." It's lightning to your song. People love meteorology when it's romantic. Romantic lightning? And my. She pulls her hair out of the clip and it falls like ink. Also, you looked less like you were going to sneeze. I don't say it out loud, but my heart says it for me. Please let this matter. Let there be a way to be the person I am when I play. Even in a room where forms need filling, numbers need adding, and I'm expected to choose a future like picking a seat on a bus, we hide the camera under Lynn's jacket and stuff the guitar in the case and attempt to descend the ladder like 2 people who are not drowning in the sky. Downstairs, My mother is rolling spring rolls with our neighbor and watching a game show where everyone wears matching shirts and claps even when they lose. She looks up when we slosh in. "You are as wet as fish," she says. "My plants don't get this much attention." "We were very busy making art," Lynn says. A sentence that has only 3 outcomes in this house: a sigh, a lecture, or a plate of food. We get all 3. The sigh is long-suffering. The lecture is loving. The plate is fried shallots sprinkled over rice. After Lynn leaves, I send her with the memory card, like it's a relic. The house grows its evening spine. The ceiling fans whir. My mother hums an old song, one of those mid-tempo melodies that make time go softer. My grandmother in the room near the back tells the news on the TV that it is wrong, and the news does not argue. On the wall, the portrait of my father is almost too small for how big the absence is. He is not dead, but he is something else that doesn't really have a word, because gone is something you say about socks and buses and the Sunday. He left when I was 9, the same year I won the district science fair with a project about circuits that I barely understood. He took a job on a ship and sent money every once in a while, and stories even less often. "The sea changes boys into men," he wrote once. "It changes men into salt." It becomes a joke eventually, how the stories prove a person is still thinking of you. It becomes unfunny again when you're 17 and you have to select a practical major on a form that takes up your entire desk. After dinner, I fold clothes and the rain taps the windows like a polite guest. The power flickers and then steadies. I think about lightning and the clock tower, about courage and lenses, about thumbs tapping tiny hearts on screens in rooms I will never step inside. When the city dries a little, I put on my helmet and ride to the cafe on the corner. At the cafe's front window are plants with leaves the size of hands, classrooms of them, whispering chlorophyll secrets to one another. The barista waves when I walk in. My table is near the outlet, because artists need electricity like the heart needs a reason. I open my second-hand laptop and text Lynn. "Lynn, uploading. Title ideas? Me, just before. Monsoon version. If lightning and a clock that lies. Lynn. The algorithm will hate that. Me. The algorithm hates me anyway. Lynn. The algorithm is like a strict auntie. It wants you to wear the right shoes. Me? So what shoes? When lightning strikes in the middle of a rooftop song, you won't believe. Me? No. Lynn. Fine. Rooftop storm, new song, first take. Me? Acceptable. She sends the link 5 minutes later. The progress bar does its slow miracle. The thumbnail is my face at mid-laugh, hair flattened by rain, eyes more alive than I remember ever seeing in a picture. The city behind me is blurred, a constellation of damp lights. Press, she texts. Go? There is a moment right before you release something when it still belongs to you and then it doesn't. The little clink when your coin leaves your fingers and becomes a fountain's problem. I hover over the button like it's a portal, and then I press, and then it's out there, the music and the storm and my heart in public. At the next table, 2 girls argue about whether ghosts are real. Evidence is presented. The flicker of the cafe sign last Thursday. The unexplainable shatter of a glass when no one was near it. The way the air in their apartment breathes cold on nights when no windows are open. Ghosts are just unspent stories, one says. They haunt the places where no one told them to go. I file that away for a lyric. I file everything away for a lyric. It's terrible for sleeping but great for songs. By the time I finish my coffee, the video has 1,000 views, which is good for a Tuesday night in a city that is not particularly interested in me. There are comments. This is a hug. My cat fell asleep to this. I watched the lightning 20 times. The way the rain comes in like percussion. You remind me of my brother. More players. I text the link to my cousin who lives in Hanoi and pretends not to watch any of my videos. He hearts it anyway. When I get home, my mother is asleep on the couch with the fan aimed at her feet. She left the kitchen light on because she knows I hate walking into dark rooms. I turn it off and the apartment becomes a ship at night, steady and a little lonely. My grandmother snores softly, practicing for some future thunder. I brush my teeth and wonder if the storm will be on the news. I wonder if the auntie at the shrine told the weather her own version of the story. In my room, the air is thick with all the verbs of summer: waiting, becoming, saying, almost. The rain has stopped, but the drops still let go one by one from the balcony railing. I lie on my back, phone above my face, and watch the numbers on the video nudge up. 2,000, 3, 4, 6. The comments are a stream I can't drink fast enough. Someone says, "This saved me tonight." I don't know how to hold that kind of sentence. I put it in my pocket like a talisman. At 11:13 p.m., a message slides into my DMs from an account with no profile picture and a handle that is just a first initial, a number, and 3 dots. The message is simple. "I know that melody," it says. "Did your father teach it to you?" I sit up so fast my phone almost kisses my nose. I read it again. I look at the account. It follows no one. It has no posts. I type and delete twice. The thing about my father is, we did play once in the kitchen, a dawn when both of us were awake for different reasons. I put my fingers on the guitar wrong and he put his hands over mine and moved me a little to the left, and the kitchen light was yellow like it was a summer memory, even though it was January. He played a melody I tried to catch like a small bird. I lost it, like you do at 9, like you do when you don't know what you're losing yet. If I had known, I would have held the bird more gently. I type, "I wrote it last week." Why? The reply is fast. Because the man who played it on a ship near Ha Long Bay said his son would know how to finish it. The room shrinks. My heart is too loud in the quiet. The old air conditioner coughs like an old man telling you a slow joke. The rain resumes somewhere far away, and the sound travels across roofs and into the soft mouth of the night until it finds my windowsill. Who is this? I type. And then I add the kind of thing you add when you are afraid of looking like you are begging for a miracle. You can't, can you? Just say it plain. Who are you? How do you know him? We met last month, the message says. He fixes radios on the boat. He plays at night. He drinks his tea like it insulted him. He talks about the river you live near but refuses to name it. Like if he does, the river will decide to leave the map. This is either the cruelest prank or the most important conversation of my life. I type that and then delete it, because it's too much like a dramatic line in a drama where the actors are either too beautiful or too tired to be real. What is his name? I ask. Say his name. Another bubble. Another pause. And then the name appears, and it is my father's name, full and formal, the one on my birth certificate and the shrine at my grandmother's village, and the back of every report card my mother signed for the past 8 years, because we are 2 halves of a signature. For a second, the world is one of those snow globes you only see in foreign films, but with rain instead of snow. The room shakes it, and the pieces inside fall in new places. I stand up, then sit down, then stand up again, like a person trying to catch the old place back. I say, "Are you messing with me?" The reply takes longer this time. I think about distance differently now. The speed with which light crosses a city, the way truth can take 10 years and then show up in your phone in 4 seconds. "No," the message says. "Tomorrow night, 8 p.m., the dock at the end of New Van Van Troy Street. I'll be there. If you want to hear the rest of the song," I stare at the ... of a message not yet sent, but nothing else appears. I scroll through the account again and find nothing to hold on to. The room smells like the lemon oil my mom uses on the furniture in May. My hands tremble so precisely it's almost music. I text Lynn, "Are you awake?" She replies with a sticker of a rabbit in a hoodie, drinking coffee. I tell her everything. The rooftop, and the lightning, and the message, and the dock, and the name. She sends the wide eye emoji 5 times, which seems medically unwise. Then, "Do you think it's safe?" Then, "Do you think it's him?" Then, "Do you want me to be there?" Then, "What will you wear?" "Yes, maybe, yes, I don't know," I type. She says, "Then we plan, we vet. We do not get kidnapped by anyone named K329. We bring Quan. He is large and emotionally available. Quan is her cousin and a gentle giant who works at a motorbike repair shop and listened to my entire first album of phone recordings while changing a clutch, and then said, "The thing about your songs is they all walk like they know where they're going." He is the kind of person you want behind you when you walk into a room that might not be a room so much as a chapter. I put the phone face down on my chest. I count the slow fans of the blades. I think about my mother asking if I want chicken rice for breakfast or sticky rice for breakfast, as if those are the only 2 decisions that matter in a life. I wonder how to tell her a thing that might be a miracle. I wonder if you can break someone's heart with good news. I open the video again. 22,000 views. Someone in the comments has already time-stamped the lightning and called it the sky clapping. There is a peculiar mercy in the way the city sleeps. It is not quiet exactly, but it is peaceful in its noise. The distant slosh of tires in puddles, the squeak of a sign twisting on its hinge, the elevator in the building across the alley, singing its little arrival song every hour, when the night shift guard visits the rooftop to smoke and stare out at the dark. He is in charge of keeping safe. At 2:03 a.m., the account sends one more message. "You played it right," it says. He only played the first half. It was missing the part where someone comes home. I can't explain it, but the sentence hits me like a chord I've been trying to find since I was 9. I don't sleep for a while. When I do, I dream of docks and radios, of lightning that remembers me, of a clock that is broken and truthful at the same time. In the dream, the river looks up at the sky and says, "I have always been a mirror. What you see is what you bring." In the morning, the city is rehearsing a blue it rarely gets to be, that fresh crayon's blue. I wake to the sound of my mother sealing a Tupperware lid with an authority that could stop wars. She sets breakfast on my desk, a plastic container of sticky rice with mung bean paste and shredded coconut, and says, "If you insist on getting soaked for no reason, you must at least eat." "I got soaked for art," I say. "Different category." "And he dot on rand." She tilts her head with a smile that means, "You are my child," which means you are mine to disagree with. Art should wear a raincoat. "My art refuses," I say. And she shakes her head and then ruffles my hair like I'm Still a boy who hasn't yet learned to argue with the world. We don't talk about my father at breakfast. We never do. He lives in the hallway that goes from the kitchen to the front door. He lives in the shoes we never threw away. He lives in the drawer with the screwdriver and the flashlight. No one has to say his name for him to sit down with us and pour tea. At school, awards are handed out in the auditorium like a deli counter for achievement. I sit next to Lynn in the back row. She has her hair in a messy bun and her glasses on the tip of her nose like a librarian who has heard every excuse. "Your video is at 70,000, she whispers, handing me a piece of gum. Also, the comments are a garden. Also, I stalked K329 across the entire internet and got nothing. He is either a spy or a grandpa with a flip phone." The physics teacher clears his throat at the podium. "As you know," he says, "everything is forces and motion." He holds up a certificate with a name I don't know. The name's owner claps once for himself and then looks embarrassed about it. "But sometimes," the teacher continues, "there are other things too." He scans the room like he has lost his place and would like us to help him find it. The program is a parade of futures, engineering scholarships and accounting internships, and a boy named Knott, who already has a job waiting at his uncle's shipping company. Before the last two awards, the principal's microphone fizzles and dies, and the entire auditorium experiences a tiny moment of silence. Real silence, not absence of sound silence, but the silence that happens when a system stops working and everyone remembers they are alive. The principal taps the microphone. It coughs back to life. "Ah," he says, "electricity, the invisible friend," and quell dance. When it's over, we peel ourselves from the plastic chairs like fruit stickers and spill into the hallway. Lynn gives me a look that's both conspiratorial and protective. "So," she says, "game plan. We meet at 7, I say. Quan will drive us. We stay where people are. We have the safer app turned on, and if the vibe is wrong, we leave." "Define wrong," she says. "Like if he knows my blood type." "Do you know your blood type?" "Be positive." She claps my shoulder. "Be positive," she repeats, like a mantra and like a pun. "Okay. If it's him, if there's even a chance I vote, we walk toward it. Just a little. Just enough to see if the door opens." I nod. The hallway smells like lemon cleaner and damp sandals. A boy bumps my shoulder, apologizes in a rush, keeps running. At the window at the end of the hall, the light does that thing where it makes the dust look like confetti. After school, I go home and pretend to study the brochure for HCMC University of Technology while secretly scrolling through the comments again. "The way the lightning waits for the cord at 2:13 like a good friend," someone wrote. "I live in a place where it never rains," another person wrote, "but I still know this feeling." Sometimes I think the internet is the opposite of the sea. It collects the things that would drown alone. At 6:40 p.m., I'm at the curb with my helmet on and a stomach that feels like it ate a family of birds. Quan pulls up in a motorbike the color of excellent coffee. He wears a shirt with the sleeves rolled and a smile that says he knows how to fix whatever is broken. "We are not getting murdered," he says cheerfully. "Not on my to-do list," I say. Lynn climbs on behind me and wraps her arms around my waist like a seatbelt. "When we find him," she says into my ear so only I can hear, "we are going to charge him interest on 9 years of parenting." "If we find him," I say. "When?" she says again, loaning me her certainty. The road to the river has its own music, the clatter of cutlery from open windows, the negotiation of horns, the low argument of buses, the laughter from two girls on a scooter who are each eating an ice cream sandwich like it's a race. We pass a man repairing a radio at his stall, transistor guts spread out like a tiny city, his hands gentle and sure. We cross under the shadow of the clock tower. It looks fine, as if last night was a story we made up to keep ourselves entertained. The dock at the end of Nguyen Van Troy Street is shaped like someone took a bite out of the river and then changed their mind. There are fishermen's boats tied like patient animals, their paint peeled, their names in white script. The air smells like wet rope and diesel and limes because someone is selling wedges in a plastic tub. Kids play with bottle caps on the steps. Two old men argue about the weather with the conviction of prophets. We park near the lamp that hums. Quan folds his arms to look even larger, which works. Lin pulls her hair into a ponytail that looks like purpose. I look at the faces and try to find one I already know. "What's the plan if it's a scam?" Quan asks. "I cry," I say. Then I turn it into a song. And cries. A figure steps out from the shadow of a moored boat and raises a hand in a hello that is not quite a hello, more like a question. He is older than me by maybe a handful of years, slender, with a jacket that would be ridiculous in this heat if the river weren't always colder, if the evening breeze weren't a sigh. He has the kind of face that refuses to decide if it's beautiful or merely interesting. His eyes are careful in a way that makes you feel seen and inventoried. "Kay?" I say, because I don't want to shout numbers in front of fishermen. He nods. "I'm Kai," he says, offering the rest of his name like an anchor. "I'm sorry for the theatrics online. I didn't know how else to." He gestures between us, between all of this, as if summoning a better word than begin. "And him?" I ask, too quickly. "The man on the boat." Kai glances out over the black sheet of the water. A long barge moves slow enough to make you think time has a body. "He left yesterday," he says. "He works a route, back and forth, but he will return." He looks at me then, level and precise. He talks about you like you are a story he owes his life for. Behind me, Lin touches my elbow once. Quan shifts his weight like he's preparing to lift something heavy. I swallow the second question, and the third, and then the fourth arrives uninvited. "Why did you message me? Why not him?" "He doesn't use these." Kai lifts his phone like a seashell he distrusts. He says radios are more honest. He asked me to deliver the possibility. Deliver the possibility. The words land in me like nails, but they hold the right things together. Somewhere, a motor coughs, and the boat next to us bobs, as if answering a private joke. What else did he say? My voice is different in my own ears, younger and older, like I have had to grow and ungrow to stand on this dock. He said you'd know the rest of the melody. Kai looks at my hands, and I realize I have been making chords in the air without the guitar, my fingers memorizing ghosts. He said it starts simple and gets brave. It is, maybe, the strangest compliment anyone has ever given me. It is also exactly the shape of the thing I tried to play on the roof. I want to be brave so bad it makes my teeth ache. "Can you show me?" I ask. "The part he played. The beginning." I don't know why I think Kai would know it, except that he speaks with the ease of someone who has traveled inside another person's story. He doesn't nod. He doesn't say yes or no. He reaches into his jacket and pulls out something wrapped in a cloth the color of smoke. He unwraps it. It is a small radio, the kind my grandmother used to keep by her bed, the kind with a dial you turn like a safe. It is patched and repaired so many times It looks like history held together by desire. He sets it on the dock post and flicks it on, and there is that hush before the station, the promise of voices not yet tuned. And then a channel grabs us, and a song spills out into the night, a song I have only heard twice, once in a kitchen and once in a dream. It is exactly what I remember, and nothing like it at all. It is the first half of a story. I think about the message that said it was missing the part where someone comes home. I think about my mother asleep on a couch, waiting for any sound with my footsteps in it. I think about the clock tower that lies and the lightning that told the truth, if only by accident. What do you want from me? I ask Kai, and I mean the world and also just this minute. Tomorrow, he says, quiet so the night has to lean in to listen. If you want, I can take you to the harbor where his boat docks when it returns. It will be 2 days. Evening. He will have tea. He will say it tastes like someone put sadness in water. He will pretend he has no idea I did this. And you will decide whether the last 9 years were just the time it took to get to the chorus. I don't know what I say after that. Lin asks practical things. Quan asks safety things. Kai answers with specifics. A time, a place, the name of a captain who does not like gossip. The old men behind us argue now about soccer. Their voices part of the river's music. A child runs past with a sparkler that makes him into a comet. The radio plays on, and the song lifts and then settles like a bird that finally found the right branch. When we leave, Kai stays at the end of the dock, hands in his jacket, looking like someone who has done the wrong thing for the right reason and is waiting to find out which one wins. On the back of Quan's bike, the city peels by, and I can feel Lin's chin against my shoulder blade, the way you do when someone is making sure you're still here. We ride past the clock tower. The hands say 9:15. It is actually 9:38. I forgive it for the lie, because maybe it is trying to hold on to a moment that mattered more than the one we're in. Maybe time is softer than we think. Back home, my mother is awake and the TV is talking to itself. She looks at me and then at the wetness of my shoulders where the river air climbed under my shirt. She is about to ask a question and then doesn't. There is soup, she says instead. It is not terrible. We eat at the small table that has held every version of our family. She tells me about a customer at the shop who tried to pay her in Cambodian currency by mistake and then blushed until it looked like the sun was setting on his face. I tell her about a teacher who said the word endeavor as if it tasted good. We are both cowards in this moment and also both very brave. When I go to my room, I sit on the edge of the bed with the guitar and try to call the song back. The first half comes obedient. It knows its job. The second half hovers far away, making a shadow on me. I play until my fingers are clean of thought. I play until the river air climbs the stairs and sits down in the chair by my door and nods like a friend who likes to watch you become yourself. The video hits 100,000 views. Someone writes, "This feels like the chapter before everything changes." Someone else writes, "What if some songs are maps?" I want to type back and say, "I think this one is." I don't. Instead, I put the guitar down and turn off the light, and the dark is cool as a cup of water. The ceiling fan is a helicopter that never lands. Somewhere, inside a habit of keeping quiet, a small, brave thing stands up. Tomorrow is a dock and a radio and a name. Tonight is a boy who is almost not a boy anymore, learning to be a citizen of his own heart. Rain stitches the last seams of the day together. The city exhales, the clock tower lies, the river forgives. The song waits, a half-finished house, and in the middle of the blue between, I fall asleep with the melody in my mouth, like a password I'm finally ready to say out loud. Chapter 2. The part where someone comes home. 2 days is not much time, and also the longest I have ever had to wait. On the first day, I carry the message around like a coin in my mouth. It makes everything taste like copper. At school, the announcements sound like they're coming from far off, a planet where people still care about the math club. Lynn keeps sending me screen grabs, comments on the video from Peru and Penang, and a small town in the middle of the United States where it also rains, but differently. Someone slowed the lightning down, frame by frame, and wrote a paragraph about how it looks like a hand blessing the city. Someone else wrote, "I don't believe in fate, but I believe in timing." At dinner, my mother asks how much the video earned so far and whether I've checked on the tutoring job. She asks like it's weather inevitable, shared. I tell her the number for the video is still not the kind of number that pays for anything but a bowl of noodles and 2 mangoes. I tell her I'll go to the tutoring center tomorrow. I do not tell her about the dock. My tongue keeps the coin hidden. When she goes to the sink, I stand in the hallway where the air feels like it remembers people. There is the drawer with the screwdriver and the flashlight, and I open it like it's a book I used to read. The screwdriver is exactly where it always is, pointed north. The batteries clack together when I touch them. On top is a small bundle of elastic bands that have become brittle with age. They snap if you stretch them too far. I close the drawer, and all the held breath goes with it. That night I sleep badly and dream I'm standing on the roof holding a kite made of receipt paper that flutters and flutters but never lifts. When I wake, the fan is making a sound like slippers on tile. The second day is easier because it has an evening inside it that promises to be different. I go to the tutoring center in the morning and fill out a form that asks me to list 5 strengths and 3 weaknesses. I write, patient. I can make metaphors out of anything. Once I learned the word syllogism, and it changed my life. Gentle with shy kids, good at explaining fractions like you're cutting a cake. For weaknesses, I write, I forget to eat when I practice. I say yes to too many things. If someone cries, I might cry too. The woman behind the desk nods at each item like we are building a person between us, and she approves. Back home, I pack a bag with reasonable things a cautious person would pack. My portable charger, a small first aid kit Lynn forced on me once after I tripped in front of a music store, 2 umbrellas in case one becomes an argument with the wind, and the tiny notebook where I keep lines that might be lyrics. I glance at the guitar and then leave it. The dock feels like a place for empty hands. At 6:30, I tell my mother I am meeting Lynn at the river to film something, which is not a lie. She ties my shoelace tighter and says, "Bring your helmet, even to a river." She looks at me once more, like she's checking the seams. "If you see anything you cannot understand," she says, "you must promise me you will not make up a story to fix it." "I promise," I say, and I mean it. But stories are what I have instead of armor. The street is a neon flow. Quan pulls up right on time, and Lynn climbs on after me and wraps her arms around my waist. She is wearing the blue jacket that makes her look like she's on a mission to collect a rare butterfly. "No one is allowed to cry until I say so," she says into my shoulder. "My mascara is not waterproof." "I thought you were above mascara," I say. "I'm above most things," she replies. Mascara is not one of them. We pass under the clock tower. It says 7:02 when it is 7:14. It is now like a relative who always tells the same joke and you love them more for it. At the dock, the river breathes and the air is stitched with the small sounds of waiting. The same lamp hums. The man with lime wedges must be immortal because he's there again, coaxing the juice from wedges with a knife that learned patience a long time ago. The old men are not arguing about weather today. They are arguing about love, which is the weather of the heart. Kai is already there, leaning against a post like he came early to practice being calm. He nods at us as if we are the exact people he expected. He wears the same jacket, which makes me think of sailors in black and white movies who have exactly two shirts, at sea and ashore. Hi, I say. The word feels small in my mouth. Hi, he says back. To Quan, thank you for being large. To Lin, you are the one who films the right moments. To me, after a pause, you look like I felt at 16. How did you feel at 16? I ask. Like someone had put a new room in my chest and I hadn't figured out where the door was yet. We all stand together in a little square of silence. Around us, the river does what rivers do carry, touch, remember. A boat's horn low voices the twilight. On the steps down to the water, a boy lines up bottle caps into the shape of a fish. He keeps adding another row like he can make it swim if he gets it right. What if he doesn't come? I ask. Then we go home and nothing is ruined, Lin says, which is the kindest lie anyone has ever told me. Quan puts a hand on my shoulder, heavy enough to hold me in place and light enough that I could slip out if I wanted. I will stand between you and anything, he says, including your own imagination. We do not wait long. A blunt-nosed boat edges out of the gloaming like a sentence being spoken by someone who forgot the verb and then found it at the last second. The captain at the stern wears a conical hat with a football team sticker on it. There are two men at the bow, talking with the quiet intimacy of co-workers who have learned everything that matters about the other without ever asking a direct question. The boat bumps the dock with the familiar kiss of wood on wood. He steps off like someone who used to step off places without thinking and had to learn to think about it. He is thinner than the last picture I remember, the one where he's holding me in one arm and a bag of dragon fruit in the other, and we are both smiling like the camera is a better future we can borrow for a second. His hair is not gray exactly, but the light has folded itself into it. His eyes look like my eyes when I am not pretending. He sees me and stops and calculates 100 routes through this moment and then chooses the only one that makes any sense. He says my name, Min. My knees prepare to fail and then decide that would be dramatic. The old men stop arguing about love because now they have something practical to do. Watch two people who used to be a family try to remember how Kai moves back half a step so we can be the geometry at the center of the frame. Lin's camera is not out. She meets my gaze and shakes her head, as if to say, "Some things belong first to you." He reaches into his pocket and takes out a tin of tea leaves like a talisman. He holds it for a second and then puts it on the post between us like an offering on a shrine. "The tea on the boat tastes like someone put sadness in water," he says, exactly as promised, and I laugh in a sound that might be a sob. Quan takes 1 minute, turns his back to us, and becomes a wall that shields us from the rest of the dock. For a long moment, we inventory each other's faces. Every small scar is a story. I want to say 1,000 sentences, but the one that comes out is simple. "You left," I say. "I did," he answers, and his voice finds the middle distance between shame and explanation. I left, and I kept telling myself the leaving was temporary, and the fixing would be fast, and then I would return with pockets full of solutions like fruit, and I would pour them on the table and say, "Here, forgive the hunger." It turns out the sea is a slow teacher. It turned me into salt first, and end here. Oh my, but tome and fire that. But I have not to see A.T. save say, "You wrote that in a letter?" He nods once. "I did not write the part where I was afraid to fail in front of you. It is easier to fail in front of water. The sound around us goes soft. It is the kind of quiet that cities permit when everyone recognizes a heavy thing and decides to be gentle with it. You taught me the beginning of a melody," I say, and my hands find the shapes in the air again. He smiles like he is drinking that sentence. "You finished it." I tried. The word weaves itself with the dock's planks. He glances at Kai, then at Lin, then at Kwan's broad back, then back at me. He picks up the tea tin and taps it lightly with a knuckle. "I asked a boy who is braver than I to send a message," he says. "I thought maybe the second half of the song needed to be written within walking distance of home." "Why didn't you come to the door?" I ask. And I don't mean it as an accusation, but the question is shaped like one. "Because your mother is there," he says, and he places the sentence on the wood like it might move, and he doesn't want it to fall. And I have not yet figured out how to ask for forgiveness without making her hold any of the weight of it. The old men look away like they just remembered something urgent at their feet. Lin actually does look at her shoes. The river breathes again, slow and tidal. "She makes excellent soup," I say. He smiles. "She always did." We sit on the edge of the dock with our knees making shapes over the water. Kai disappears and returns with 4 paper cups and a kettle from the stall that sells everything: limes, cigarettes, tiny red packets that make men turn up the volume on their laughter, and he pours hot water over the leaves my father brought. The smell is green and honest. He puts a cup into my father's hands like he is returning something that was borrowed. Kwan drifts closer and then back again, the moon with its own orbit. "What do we do?" I ask. And I mean tonight and tomorrow and the map of all the next parts. YA moments can hold big questions. They are allowed to be earnest, unironically. "We change the key," my father says, and it is such a musician answer that I want to throw him into the river and then jump in after him to pull him back. "No," he says softly, as if he heard me. "We do the small thing that makes the big thing possible." I have a rooftop, I say. I have a song with a missing middle. I have a friend who films like a general leading a camera into battle. I have another friend who could lift a car if kindness required it. I have a mother who believes in raincoats. I have a clock tower that lies and is forgiven nightly. I look him full in the face. I have a question that sounds like this: "Will you come upstairs and listen?" He nods once. It is the nod of someone who has been allowed to enter a house. We do not ride together, because there are some rituals the city requires: time to think, wind to wipe away a layer of fear. Kwan takes Lin, Kai takes my father on the back of his motorbike, and for once, my father is a passenger in the story. I go ahead because the streets are the only map I can control. The building breathes when we enter. The auntie at the shrine lights a new coil and says a name under her breath that might be a prayer or just a reminder. We climb the ladder and the roof receives us. The soft grit of old paint, the city like an audience that hasn't decided yet what this is. Lynn arranges the camera not for views or a thumbnail but for witness. She tells me with her eyes that nothing goes live without my word. Quan turns the mic on and checks levels and grunts in approval like a sound engineer who learned his craft from exhaust notes. Kai stands by the door, ready to intercept any unwelcome ghosts. My father walks to the edge and looks out at the clock tower. "You can set your watch by a wrong clock," he says. "You will just live a different life." He sits cross-legged on the pebbled surface. I sit across from him with the guitar in my lap. It is the first time we have faced each other with an instrument between us since I was small enough to think everything a person taught you was a law. "Show me what you remember," he says. I play the beginning the way he did it, spare, a little stubborn. The melody, a line on a page that does not yet curve. He nods and hums a second voice under it, not harmony yet, something like a shadow. Then I play the part I wrote, which rises and falls like stairs in the dark, your hand out, your foot discovering the next step only when you move. He listens with his whole body. Some people listen with their ears. He listens with his ribs. At the place where my version thins and starts to look back at itself, he lifts his hand, and without touching the strings, traces the shape of the next note in the air. He doesn't say, "Here." He doesn't say, "No, not that." He breathes and points his chin at the city, and somehow, unbelievably, I hear it. The part that isn't yet but could be. It's not a clever twist. It's not fireworks. It's a turn that feels like a door opening into a known room from a new angle. It is the sound of someone coming home. I play it. The air in the room that is not a room changes pressure. Lynn lifts a hand to her mouth. Quan says a word that would scandalize your aunties if they didn't understand that sometimes only that word will do. Kai exhales like he'd been underwater. The melody does not end there. Songs are like conversations. You don't answer a hello with silence. The phrase that follows is simple, almost childish. A row of houses. Then, a held note like a breath, held just before you knock. Then back, because you always go back to the beginning. But it is not the beginning anymore. It is the same street in morning light. My father's face does a thing I have never seen it do, like a crack closing instead of opening. He hums, and I play, and the city watches, and the clock tower says some wrong number, and we all agree it doesn't matter. Again, he says. And we do it again. And the second time Lynn presses record because some miracles deserve a replay. We don't speak between takes. There is nothing language could add. When we stop, it is not silence that follows, but the roof immediately filling with the sounds we had turned into music, the scooters, the kettle in somebody's apartment boiling over, the distant MC at a night market, shouting into a microphone about a special price that ends in 99. Everything returns to being itself, which is the best applause. My father looks at me, and then at the ladder, and then at the door back down into our life. "May I," he starts, and the sentence breaks its own leg. "Do you think your mother—" "I don't know," I say, "but you can ask her with your whole face." He laughs once, too loud, and covers his mouth as if he offended the sky. "I forgot how close you stand to the truth," he says. He stands, he shakes his hands out like a boxer, and then nods to himself the way people do just before they do something that will invent a new version of themselves. We go down. The apartment smells like soup and clean clothes and whatever word is the opposite of regret. My mother is sitting at the table with a ledger open and a pencil behind her ear. She looks up when we come in, and the world does the thing where it narrows to one breath and then widens again. She does not stand. She does not fling the ledger at his head. She looks at me first. I nod once. The nod says, "We are brave and foolish, and this is ours." He takes off his shoes because even a prodigal knows not to track a boat into the house. He steps forward and stops at the edge of the rug that always migrates a little toward the doorway like it wants to be the welcome. "Lan," he says, saying her name like someone who knows how to give water back to a plant. She puts the pencil on the ledger and closes it gently as if it were sleeping. "Tea?" she asks, like an ordinary night. The boy brought some. He holds up the tin. It tastes like the time between things. She stands. She is taller when she is this angry and this kind at once. "You always liked a complicated taste," she says. He nods and nods until the nods become something else, a bow, a confession, a habit breaking. "I was a bad husband," he says, which is both too small and exactly right. "I left, and I told myself I was leaving to fix something, and then I broke other things by not being here to carry them." She looks at me again. I am trying not to cry because I promised Lynn, but my face is made of water. My mother sighs and fetches a napkin and hands it to me and then looks back at him. "We have eaten without you. We have slept without you. We have learned how to do the small things that add up. We are good at our life." I can see that. His voice has that sea-worn scratch to it, a texture like the side of a boat. "I do not ask to replace anything you built. I ask to stand beside it and do the carrying I should have done until your arms ache less." She considers him for a long time, the way she considers a cut of meat at the market, not for its price, but for what it will turn into over heat. "You will not come with apologies as some kind of broom I have to hold," she says. "You will not hand me the job of forgiving. If you are useful, be useful. If you are honest, be honest. If you are going to sing, sing in the key we live in now." "I can do that," he says. He looks like a man who was expecting snow and got rain, and knows the rain is better because it feeds things. "Good," she says. "Then sit. The soup is not terrible." He laughs, and the laugh reaches the corners of the room where we keep the things we don't talk about. He sits. We all sit. The tea tastes like something that waited long enough to be simple. Lin and Quan sneak away to the balcony and pretend not to listen while listening to every syllable. Kai stands just inside the door with his hands behind his back like a messenger who has delivered the letter and will return tomorrow for the reply. My grandmother wakes from her nap and emerges and looks at my father and says, "You are too thin," which is the first and most generous forgiveness a Vietnamese grandmother knows. She orders him to eat twice, and then takes his shoulders in her hands and presses her forehead to his like she is checking for fever or lies. After we eat, my father says he can't stay the night. The boat is on a schedule, and the captain believes in discipline the way some men believe in God. He will be back in 2 evenings, he says. And when he says it, he looks at my mother first, and she nods, and he looks at me second, and I nod, and the room visibly decides not to break. On the way out, he stops at the drawer and opens it like the muscle remembered first. He replaces the batteries so they are neat again. He touches the screwdriver. He closes the drawer. At the door he turns and does not say the thing I know he wants to say, that he loves us, that he is sorry, that he will be better, that the sea is not an excuse and the land is not a punishment. He just lifts his hand like he's checking if the air will hold it. My mother lifts hers too, and our hands draw a triangle in the space between us that is steadier than anything we've built in years. When he is gone, my grandmother announces, It is time for television, as if the world has not shifted a degree and a half. Lynn squeezes my shoulder hard enough to make tomorrow feel possible. Quan says, he seems like he could lift a car, if kindness required it, which is exactly the sentence Quan would use to mean he approves. I go back upstairs to the roof by myself. The night has carried on without us. Across the alley, a woman waters her plants, and the water falls in a rhythm that sounds like a metronome learning to dance. The clock tower says a time that is not this time but belongs to it anyway. I open the notebook and write the title, The Map of Electric Summer, and under it, for the first song, just before the rooftop song. Under that, I write the second title, the part where someone comes home. For the third, because no story is finished when the credits roll, I write, How to Carry Small Things. The next morning, my phone is sick with notifications. Lynn posted a 30-second clip from last night, the part where the melody turns and you can hear a second voice under it that is not exactly harmony, but knows where to stand. She called it a door in a song. She did not include faces. The caption is, Sometimes the map is in the music. Ambulances have sirens. The internet has hearts. They multiply as if you could hold them. People comment things like, I felt this in my teeth, and I called my father, and I left my father a voicemail, and I forgave myself for not having the words yet. Someone wrote a paragraph about the philosophy of return and used 3 words I had to look up. By noon, the cafe near the corner has our clip on the TV above the counter. The owner is Lynn's aunt's friend's cousin or something like that, is the way everyone is connected. If you pull the string and I drink coffee to the sound of my own heart. I send the clip to my cousin in Hanoi and he responds with a single syllable, Oi, which in our language can mean my condolences or my congratulations. In this case, it means both. In the afternoon, an email arrives from a music student I've watched for years, the one who records the sound of storms on different rooftops. He says, If you ever want help producing, I will trade you my mediocre mixing for your superior noodles. Another email tiptoes in from a small festival coordinator in District 3. Do you have a 20-minute set, 2 songs, a story? I could say no. I could say later. But I think about small things that add up. The way the T10 clicked on the wood. The way my mother put the pencil down with respect for the numbers. The way my father traced a note in air and made it real. I say yes. I text Lynn and Quan and Kai. I text my mother a link and a time. The festival is 3 days later, a pop-up kind of thing beneath strings of bulbs, handmade signs, a man selling fried bananas out of a pan that looks older than me, kids with chalk drawing galaxies on the pavement. I bring the guitar and the song and a stomach that thinks this is a roller coaster. Lynn tapes down cables like she's been doing it her whole life. Quan does front-of-stage security, which mostly involves smiling at toddlers who wander too close. Kai stands near the soundboard. The guy running it wears a shirt that says, No requests, and immediately tells me he will take any requests if I ask nicely. My mother arrives with my grandmother and a thermos. She looks around like a general inspecting tents. When she sees the stage, she laughs quietly. When you were 4, you stood on a stool and sang the entire jingle for dish soap to the plant because you thought the plant would be persuaded to be cleaner, she says. Did it work? It did not. The plant was stubborn. But you were very certain. We go on as the sky looks like an orange someone peeled badly. It is not raining. The air is the kind that makes you love your skin even when it sticks to you. I say into the mic, Hello, electric people. And for the first time, the people are actually here, not tucked inside their screens. A child in the front row is eating a popsicle like he is trying to solve an equation. An auntie near the back looks like she might adopt me if I sing well. I played just before, and the city is generous. It gives me the right wind. It gives me a baby's steady babble when I need a rhythm. It gives me the squeak of a stall sign at the exact moment the melody lifts. Lynn catches it all, but I don't think about the camera because I am living in the first audience I ever wanted, the one composed of neighbors. Then I tell a small story about a half-finished song. I do not tell the private parts. I just say, sometimes the second half of the song is a person, sometimes it is a choice, sometimes it is both. The crowd is the right kind of quiet. I play the part where someone comes home. I hear my father's humming under the melody even though he is not in front of a mic. He is somewhere in the crowd. I feel his absence like a presence. I look up and see the clock tower peeking over a line of trees, insisting it is 8 even though it is 8:15. I grin at it. It knows we know. Halfway through the song, a small gust of wind lifts the string of bulbs and makes them chime against one another in a glassy little music. You can't plan that. You can only accept it. I do. And the phrase goes a little different than it did on the roof, because tonight the door opens wider. The last note hangs like laundry, then drops into the basket of the night. People clap the way you clap when something lands. Lynn wipes her eyes like she is swatting a mosquito. Quan lifts a smaller child onto his shoulders so she can see the world right. Kai, who never smiles big, smiles big. After, a boy with a skateboard tells me, my dad fixed a radio once and we listened to the neighbor's wedding through a wall and I thought that meant we were rich. An auntie tells me the tea at her stall is better than sadness. A girl with a notebook asks to see my chord chart and then laughs because it is just a drawing of a river with notes for boats. At the edge of the crowd, my father stands with his hands in his pockets and a face that learned how to be still. When the people thin, we stand together again, but this time not on a dock. He hands me a small folded piece of paper. It is creased and perished at the corners like it went to war in his wallet. On it is a series of dots and lines, the most careful handwriting he ever had. It is a map, but not of a place. It is of a route. The stops are named with words like morning and after the storm, and 3 amperes, M, when you notice the wall still stands, and lunch with your mother, and evenings with your friends, and forgiveness if we are lucky. There is a dotted line that trails into sea. There is an arrow that points back to the first stop. It is a silly thing, he says, shy suddenly as any boy, a map of what I meant to do and didn't, and what I can do now. I fold it smaller and tuck it in my wallet so that it warms to my body. We can do it together, I say. Slow is allowed. Slow is how you make it stick, he says. We walk home with my mother on one side of him and me on the other. No one tries to make a big speech. My grandmother walks a step ahead, dragging the crowd with her by sheer will, which is how she has always moved through the world. Lynn peels away to upload, and because she cannot help trying to be the first to put the right title on the thing, Quan peels away to go to the shop and fix a carburetor that is suffering an existential crisis. Kai peels away to return the borrowed cables and to sit on his own roof and listen to other people's radios until he catches a song from far away and hums along. At home, the ledger sits on the table and the drawer with the screwdriver waits and the plant in the corner lifts its leaves at us like applause. I go to my room and open the notebook again. I write not a lyric but a list, which is the adult's version of a prayer. Call the festival guy back. Send a thank you to the student who offered mixing. Show up at the tutoring center with a lesson about fractions and cake. Look at the scholarship form with eyes that do not assume the answer is no. Ask my father to teach me the radio's inside names. Teach my father the comments' inside jokes. Write my mother into the first song properly. Buy Quan a shirt that says, "Kindness can lift a car." There are summers that teach you to swim and summers that teach you to be still on the bank. This one taught me lightning and listening and the courage to say my name into a room. The map is not a paper you unfold. It is a melody you keep inside your mouth like a coin, and then one day you learn to spend it. Near midnight I go upstairs and play the song Once for the Dark. The city hum answers like a neighbor who heard your music through the wall and did not mind. The clock tower says 11:47. It is probably 11:59. It doesn't matter. I think of the kid at the dock, setting his bottle caps into a fish. I wonder if he finally made it swim. I think of the auntie lighting coils, of the man fixing radios, of the tea that tastes less and less like sadness, of the boat like a sentence that learned its verb. I close my eyes, and the second half of the song plays itself. And it is not only about him, it is about me and her and them and all the ways we come back to ourselves. It is about the small things that add up. Cups of tea, bullets under a ledger line, the way your friend's hand fits on your shoulder, the sound of a string against a finger when you are brave enough to press. When I finish, the roof is a quiet room and also the loudest place in the world. The air is a good weight. The map is inside me. Tomorrow I will wake up and choose a future like picking a seat on a bus, but this time I will also make the bus a song. I will stand at the dock when he returns again and again until standing there is no longer an event but just what we do when the day ends. I will learn to set my watch by a wrong clock and still arrive where I mean to be. Downstairs, my mother turns in her sleep, and it sounds like the sea forgetting something and then remembering. Somewhere along the river, a boat hums toward the harbor. Somewhere above us, the storm holds, and when it comes it will be just weather again, not a metaphor, and that will be a relief. For now, I belong to this city, and this roof and this body that finally fits a little better when called by my name. For now, the summer is electric, not because of lightning, but because of what happens in the second before and the second after, the small charge that changes everything, that says, there is a door, there is a room, there is a song, there is a way home.